episode of Moderate Voices, we're going to be doing kind of a lighthearted little just look into different things going on in society. A little bit of an Urban Dictionary thing, and then the latter half we're going to do a little bit of a friend of ours has a young daughter, and their daughter's in that range where they've started going through sex education, and they sent out this little form, so we're just going to kind of discuss it. Now, so to begin with, the Urban Dictionary, there's two terms that I've read in articles this week that did not necessarily perplex me, although one of them, when I read it, I thought it meant something. Even Chuck thought it meant something. That term was X-Train.
Well, I'm going to start off with, I know for those of you who know this, when you go to Urban Dictionary, it opens up the page. It gives you a word of the day. So here's the word of the day before we move on to trying to find out what X-Train means, or if it's even on Urban Dictionary. The word of the day is chicken sleeping. Chicken sleeping. When you fall asleep in an upright position with your head dangling, most commonly in a car or airplane, the motion makes your head bob up and down like a chicken pecking. In rare cases, you could be falling asleep in class, and a moving vehicle is not necessary. Chances of chicken sleeping are increased by 70% after a wake and bake session or accounting class. I have difficulty with this definition because you'd have a lot of experiments to come up with that 70% increase. I'm just saying.
The definition includes terms I don't know what the meaning of is.
This is how repressed Jason is. What term don't you know what means is?
Wake and bake, and what was the thing after that?
Accounting class.
Accounting class, I know. Wake and bake.
Wake and bake. I am assuming that wake and bake probably involves getting up, smoking weed, and moving on with your day. Because baking is a phrase that responds to being baked. See, Jason's a little behind on the marijuana.
There's a reason I'm a little behind on the marijuana. It's because don't do it. Treat it the same way.
No. That's his position. It's a perfectly, if you enjoy a little marijuana, that's fine. I don't personally enjoy it. So
in the state you're in, how many times did I hear you complain about your downstairs neighbors?
That's because it actually bothers me. I'm actually kind of allergic to it, and it actually affects me. I don't like the smell of marijuana, but other people, that's what they like.
So
I feel that they should have places for them to live, or I don't have to live there, but that's just me.
Well, personally, if you're in a non-smoking facility, you're in a non-smoking facility. They were violating the rules of the...
Well, it wasn't a non-smoking apartment complex, so that...
Oh, so it wasn't... Yes, okay.
So what I'm looking at now, the non-smoking apartment complex. Wonderful, wonderful, love it. All right, now, we're looking at X-Train, which is not in Urban Dictionary.
Now, the article... both Chuck and I thought X-Train, it sounds like it's something that, you're on ecstasy, and you're just staying on ecstasy, and because of this... you're developing issues, and you're engaging with the cops. Because this article was the cops moved in and arrested multiple people for an X-Train. The article explained or defined X-Train as a group of individuals, usually teenagers, creating basically a drag, a convoy of cars, and driving through neighborhoods at slow speeds, causing a disturbance. So probably lowrider, or not necessarily lowrider cars, but cars with souped up stereo speakers, blasting music at top volume, and just causing a general ruckus as they drive through town or drive through residential areas at very slow speeds. How that is described as an X-Train, I do not understand. So, do you have any thoughts? Is this a
I totally agree. I don't know who coined the phrase for the X-Train. When Googling X-Train, I usually get some version of a railway between Vegas and Los Angeles. Apparently, that would be called the X-Train. It's also a fitness community in California. As far as I can tell, that's the only thing I've seen that actually refers to this X-Train. as
I'm wondering if this is a very small community that has this particular problem is not restricted to just this community, though, because I have heard of this particular problem occurring in other communities. But I've never heard it described as an X-train. So it's sometimes...
Okay, I have a better definition of the X-train here. Getting its name from the popular club drug. The X-train is a procession of cars, sometimes up to 100 vehicles, that drive bumper to bumper through the north side of Kalamazoo, Michigan, sometimes stopping on the street and holding a pop-up party with road access blocked. So it's a rolling party of 100 cars.
But
that's
only
what
in
X-train
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Apparently, it's mainly happened in Kalamazoo, but perhaps this concept of an X-train may not necessarily be localized. That is a slightly better version of the definition. The pop-up party that happens when they randomly stop in the middle of the neighborhood makes it more sense. Okay.
That is true.
Jason has held up 2 fingers, indicating we need to wrap things up.
No. Okay, this is a silent communication between me and Chuck. Apparently, it's not going to work.
People know that you are not saying victory or peace, that this is a warning about 2 minutes left.
Well, and I'm not flipping them off British style, since I do count European style. That could also be...
That could also be a thing, yeah.
So this particular segment is this particular word, because sometimes the words, the meanings, it's pretty much common knowledge, and I just haven't kept up. This time, it's not common knowledge. I don't feel that bad anymore about not knowing what X-train means.
It is a little different. So what was the other word we wanted to look up?
Well, the other word, I don't know if we can do it in a minute, but basically there was an article in which somebody wrote a scathing article about a company, and after reading the article, I did not get scathing as necessarily what the article was. It was not flowery. I mean, it was condemning. It was negative, but it wasn't scathing. I'm just wondering if maybe scathing doesn't quite mean as...
No, I think it means what it is. It's just your opinion and their opinion of what scathing is probably varies. You seem to think that your opinion of scathing must mean something extreme.
Well, no. The actual definition of destroyed has changed.
True. I don't think the definition of scathing has changed, but that is a little bit more of a... there's variations as to whether you think it's scathing or not. Basically, it's insulting. If it's an insulting article, then in some fashion. You just may not have thought this stuff was insulting.
Well, no, I mean, it was negative, but...
Yeah,
I guess,
you just may not have...
I guess it did not rise to the level of insulting, in my opinion, to be scathing. And, you know, having a higher level for that, maybe that means I'm just less likely to rise to the bait. I don't know. All right,
but we're going to stop with the Urban Dictionary. We'll come back here in a second, and we'll talk about the wonderful world of sex ed in some school or some place in Oklahoma for however old our friend's daughter is, somewhere between the ages of 11 and 14. As you can tell, we don't really know how old she is, but we know she's in that range.
Yeah, I know she's alive. That's about all I know.
Well, we were there when she was born, roughly 11 to 14 years ago.
I really don't know how old my grandkids are.
You should fix that. You should fix that. People in the comment section, you should get on to Jason about being a bad grandpa. He should know how old his kids are. His grandkids are.
Hey, I know roughly. And when in doubt, I ask my parents. So anyway, they're having sex ed, and my first response, I think, is pretty typical of most conservatives, is this is a serious subject. We need to keep it serious. We need to... And honestly, when I went through that particular episode, because it was handled so seriously, because it was so taboo, I had some issues. I never really opened up. I never really asked any questions.
But you're on the fence of that sex ed should exist in schools.
Sex ed should exist, and everyone who says, well, parents should do it, that's a wonderful thought if they did. But too many parents get uncomfortable about the conversation And so they don't have the conversation until it's too late. Now, I believe the school should have a sex ed in which they discuss facts. Parents should then, I mean, there should be communication between school and the parents should know exactly what their school is teaching the kid. So when the kid comes home, the conversation can continue between the parent and the child. Now,
so our friend, their daughter went to a weekend sex ed class. I thought that was interesting that it was on the weekend. So I'm not sure how that works out, but that's actually probably a good thing, not in class time or anything like that. Possibly so it's a little more voluntary if you don't necessarily want your child to participate. You can hold them out a lot easier of a weekend event, as many parents in Oklahoma would want to hold out their kids for, which is totally understandable. So what they did is they took a little bit of a more, I wouldn't say, they had a little more fun. Well, they tried to keep it a little bit somewhat silly just because they don't want the students to get so bogged down in things, I think.
They don't want it to be so serious and so daunting that the student gets overwhelmed and withdraws, and it causes issues because then they don't feel comfortable asking questions. So they want to keep it humorous. They want to keep the kids engaged in a group environment by introducing humor.
So here's what they did. They came up with, basically, they're going to put your new name on your name tag, and you wore it for the session so that when you were, probably acting out some stuff, doing stuff like that, so they could keep it kind of fun and you weren't using your name. And so they made these super silly names, which I was actually the point here is that not only did they make these name tag things, which I kind of think is a good thing to kind of separate from personal attack situations or however they were doing, but they're definitely silly names. So the first batch of names, let's pick a person's name that interesting person's name, Jason. Not Jason's name or my name. We've already done that. Let's pick a name that Stephen. We will pick Stephen's name, and actually we'll go with Stephen. And his first name will be spelled S-T-E. No, we don't want it. How about Bobby? Bobby will be our boy's name. Okay. So the first thing is use the third letter.
Was there a difference between boys' names and girls' names? Because as far as I can tell with the name they came up with,
there was no difference whatsoever. It's just basically use the third letter of your first name to determine your new first name. So let's say the third letter of your first name is O. Okay? However that would work out. The third letter of your first name is an O. Your new first name would be Goober. From this little chart of things they made, your first name would be Goober. So that's your new first name. Then, of course, they have you break your last name up into two halves. So the first half, you use the second letter of your last name to determine the first half. So let's say the second letter of your last name is an S. Then you would be Goober Pizza. And the fourth letter of your last name, let's say Y. Then your last name would be Goober. Your full name would be Goober Pizza Brains. Goober Pizza Brains would be your name. I love this idea because it's stupid, it's silly. It gets the kids in this age group to have a lot of fun with their names when they walk into somebody, so they can laugh about the stuff. But then at the same time, you're going to be introducing these very serious topics to them, so it's kind of like a little nice dichotomy. I think it's actually a good choice. And then, of course, at the bottom of the sheet, it has a nice statement, which I actually think is true. Children laugh an average of 146 times a day, whereas adults laugh an average of only 4 times a day. So put some laughter into your day today. So that's another reason that we're trying to, try to have a little humor with it. I think it's actually not pretty good. But you could have this. I don't know if we want to link this to something on the list because you can make this up however you want. I just thought it was really funny. You can get some really silly names. Well, what was your name again, Jason? I had to write these down. Jason's name was.
My name was Snooty Cotty Brain.
Cootie Brain. Cootie Brain.
Cootie Brain. Cootie Brain.
As in
your
cooties.
Your name was Poopsi.
Poopsi.
Girdletushie.
Poopsi. What was it?
Girdletushie.
Girdletushie. Yes, Girdletushie. Yes. Poopsi Girdletushie is my name. Thank you. That's pretty good. My sister's name would be Chim Chim Girdletushie. Girdletushie. Chim Chim Girdletushie. Because she has the same last name as me. So, but her first name, if using the third letter, has an I, so she would be Chim Chim. Which I find that's actually a pretty good first name. I think Chim Chim. I think that's a pretty good first name.
Considering some of the other first names you mentioned, I think Chim Chim sounds pretty good. Snooty, just Poopsi.
Poopsi.
Did you have an accident? Did you go Poopsi?
Well, that's fair. Yeah, you know. And apparently they also learned all the biological stuff and stuff like that, but they had a little fun with their names. I think that was brilliant. So. That was kind of a light comment. Well, I don't want to get into too much heady comment about sex ed in class and whether you agree that people should have sex ed. More important here, what we should get about this is there are these charts to make up silly names. And I think that we should have a silly name day every year at your work. Wherever you work, I think you should have something like this happen and everybody wear a name tag, and that's your silly name for the day. I think this would be a great thing to do no matter where you're at. Whether you're a teacher, if I have a silly name on my thing, that the students get to call me for a day. They would get to call me Dr. Girdletushie for a day. I mean, come on. That's pretty hilarious.
Oh, come on. Most of your students will be calling you Poopsi.
No. I would not put my first name on there. I would just be Dr. Girdletushie.
And then they'd ask, hey, what can we call you by your first name?
I do not let them call me by my first name as it is. So
you don't?
I don't mind, but I don't encourage it. Basically, I never actually I introduce myself and then, you know, that's it. But I mean, if they want to call me Poopsie, that's okay. I mean, that's part of the thing. It's funny for a day. Everybody in the class would have to wear the name tags with their funny name. I think that would be at your workplace, Jason. Wouldn't that be just like a fun day?
That would be an interesting day. Have everybody come in with different name tags or different name badges for a day.
Just for a day. I mean. Not even a whole day. You don't even have to do a whole day if you wanted to, but like for half a day, your name is, what was your name again?
Snooty Cootie Brains.
Snooty Cootie Brains. Could you imagine your fellow coworkers getting to call you Snooty Cootie Brains for a while? I mean,
I think my name would be used frequently if that was my name for the day.
I think so. I
think everybody would be calling me Cootie Brains.
I think that's why that last statement, adults don't laugh 4 times a day, is kind of true. When you're at work, a lot of times you don't laugh a lot. You just kind of work, right? Yeah. This will be a great way to break up a year. To just have one day, everybody has a silly name. What do you think that you should push for this at your work? I'll push for it at my work. You push for your work.
Why not? I think we would have to come up with a different chart, though. That particular chart may be a little bit too much on the insulting
side. It's perfect. At least for the first time. I mean, a bazillion charts like this, I'm sure. But the idea is for it to be silly.
But, yeah, that would be, I mean, and my initial reaction is, no. This is injecting too much humor into a serious subject. And the more I thought about it, it's like, yeah, the subject matter is serious. Maybe having a little laughter will open people up to actually learn instead of going, nah, that's disgusting, and not paying attention.
Yeah,
so,
be more engaged in the learning process. Yeah. That's a good thing. All right.
Yep.
That's it for us, I think, today.
That's this little brief, funny episode for today. So, see you guys later. Bye.